Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here to talk about My Hero Chapter 411, technically 410 as well because I missed things because of the holiday season. Hey, welcome. I hope anyone who's watching this video is well. I hope you're having a good 2024. We're going to talk about Hero Academia. Yeah, hope you're having a good one. Alright, so I don't think this video will be too long. I'll just start with the basics, and one of the basics for me here is one of the reasons I dragged my feet on this video is just because I'm a little bit sad, and I thought that maybe with time I'd feel a little bit better, but no, the holiday season was miserable, so I'm still kind of just in that spot. I found chapter 410 and 411 really sad because I didn't really want Izuku to lose any of the One for All ghosts at this moment in time. So seeing that he lost Danger Sense in 411, you know, it brought me down a bit, but gotta give the props to Horikoshi. Props. Big time props, Hori. Didn't see it coming. I didn't think that would be something at play here. 410 made me feel pretty miserable about it, but when you went into 411, I actually really liked the justification for why it was Danger Sense. I mean, personally, from like people say like he should have taken away Smokescreen, but it's like if you're Shigaraki and you can tell what you're getting, I'm not saying that he can, but if you can tell what you're getting, you go after Danger Sense. If you're Shigaraki, in this case, it 100% makes sense why it was that Danger Sense was the one taken. Now, in this situation, I really hope that Shigaraki could have swiped all of them in that moment had it not been for this guy alerting them. I really hope that that's a distinction there, and not that he has to take them one at a time, because then it just kind of makes it like, well, you should have like sacrifice one of the other ones for you, but you know what, they're all heroes. They're going to sacrifice themselves before they sacrifice to others because they don't think that far ahead. That's why they're dead. So overall, you know, I liked the justification coming into that. Now, chapter 411, let's talk about it. There's a lot of really interesting little things, like always, going on in the chapters, and you know, again, I feel like by this time next year I'm just going to be looking back at Hero Academia and just going to be like, yeah, wow, this was like quite a thing. I do think Hero Academia ends in like before chapter 450. I feel like that's a solid guess. If it ends right at 450, we have technically another year of Hero Academia for us. But yeah, no, it's going to be really interesting to see how this comes down, because like one of the weirdest things here is that in this chapter right here, the author puts one heck of a time limit on this situation. The time limit is that decay wave. When that decay wave hits Mount Fuji, it's going to erupt. And mind you, like, I think Shigaraki's perspective here, like, hey, I'm just going to sink the entire island or decay the entire island. I think that's a pretty solid move. Honestly, yeah, pretty solid move. Like, no one can stop decay once it's going underground. Yeah, very solid move. I don't think anyone can really complain about that one. It just like kind of begs the question, like, well, Shigaraki, you're going to kind of have to do this to the whole world, so it's going to be a couple busy months for you, but I hope you get what you want out of it. Yeah, it's really interesting that we're getting this time limit put on now, because like we still have Gashly and Sero. We have no idea what's going on over there. It's going to be really interesting to see how we're going to leave this situation to go and reintroduce Aizawa and Sero. And the reason I bring up Sero is because Sero has a moment coming, and we already saw Gashly is still there. It's like, it is still a logistical nightmare. You'd think that we'd be out of the logistical nightmare by now. Man, the thing is, with this time limit, if Horikoshi starts rushing things, he could just have these characters appear. And that's something to kind of keep an eye out for. I definitely saw some weird signs in the previous chapters that made me think that we're ending at chapter 430. But it's really hard to tell at the moment. But the time limit on Mount Fuji is interesting, to say the least. Now, another cool thing to talk about. So in this chapter, we have this moment of Izuku. He's about to like do some really nasty things to Shigaraki because of that Danger Sense going off. Okay, before I continue, I want to say that I think a top tier play right now would be Izuku has Danger Sense. He had it. He knows how this thing works, and he knows how to bypass it. I think it would be amazing if Izuku has a moment where he makes Shigaraki think or over-rely on Danger Sense. And now, mind you, everything here is set up for this to work. Because and we can see him over here, this really pessimistic guy, who might actually be the best survivor of them all. This pessimistic guy, he was once the one that told Izuku that Izuku relies way too much on his quirks. Like he doesn't have the right perspective for them. And I think it would just be amazing if Shigaraki over relies on danger sense, gets put in a false sense of security, gets put into a false sense of security, thinking that danger sense is what's going to tell them what's going on with Izuku at all times. And then Izuku just flips the switch and goes for a compassionate hit. You know, that would be, look, story-wise, everything is in place to allow for that kind of tactic to go through. And you know, with the One for All Ghost here, there's the possibility that the One for All Ghost might be able to do something inside Shigaraki. One of my craziest picks for this year is that the One for All Ghosts go inside of Shigaraki and they actively look for All for One to revive him. Because I do think that if All for One comes back, he's gonna 100% mess up Shigaraki's win condition here. If there's one person that can 100% stop Shigaraki right now, and to some degree, like the guys in chapter 410 kind of allude to this when they're talking about All for One versus Shigaraki in terms of who they would rather have in control. Yeah, All for One might 100% be able to like screw up Shigaraki's destruction. So I think that'd be pretty cool. I think that'd be a very neat situation if it happens. But going back to the main thing. This pose of Izuku. Alright, listen. This is a very significant pose. I'll tell you why. Here is a similar shot when we got it from All Might back in the day. Here is a similar energy, same composition. See, like, Horikoshi loves putting that emphasis on the right side of the body. And in Endeavor's case, he was missing an arm, but you knew that there was pure pain coming behind that arm of his. So, what I am saying is that traditionally, this pose leads to a whole lot of carnage for both sides, but the villain on the on the receiving side usually gets walloped pretty hard. In All for One's case, he died after this pose would actually, both the other cases were All for One. In the first time, All for One lost and went to jail. The second time, All for One died, and now you have Izuku go now we have Izuku in the position to give Shigaraki one heck of a ride. I guess you could say that this, like, the All Might is like the most correct connection here. But still, like, even if it's just a tell, like, this is Horikoshi's tell. This is him doing his, this guy's about to get walloped kind of thing. It'll be interesting to see if that's actually, what actually happens after all. Okay, other things to talk about. I'm not going to do the page-by-page walkthrough. I've just got the most important things here. This panel right here was from chapter, 372, I think. A commenter, White Despair, helped me find it. So one of the big things that pops up here and in 410 is that you see the characters reiterating why Shigaraki is more dangerous than All for One. And you have, it's actually even on this page, one guy saying he is Ruin Incarnate. That's actually N saying it. Shigaraki is Ruin Incarnate. I had this conversation with the people that watch the live streams, but what you're really seeing here is that you have two different kind of villains. Shigaraki actually, in effect, not in background, in his overall effect, he is just a very stereotypical destroy the world type villain. Don't look at the background. The background's where he gets his nuances, but in terms of what he's doing right now in the story, like, he's a stereotypical destroy the world villain. All for One is a societal evil. Like, All for One is the kind of person who actually thrives in a peaceful society. He's like the kind of criminal that you wish you could take down. He's the kind of criminal that pretty much could torture you and really make things hurt. He's the kind of criminal that could hurt you on, technically he should be that kind of criminal that should be able to hurt you on those deeper levels. Like, think about what he did to the Aoyama family, and like just crank up his competence a little bit more, and that's like kind of the type of villain that he would be. Then now the thing is, like, this depends on what you enjoy in your fiction, but me personally, I prefer the All for One style of villain. Like, Shigaraki is pretty much just a natural disaster now. And it's really interesting because, like, earlier in 411, you see moments where Shigaraki's actually stripping away his own humanity. You know what? We're here. Might as well just show you. So here you have him saying, like, are you still treating me like a human being, right? Like, he's just destruction. He is the destruction of Japan incarnate, or to borrow N's words, he is Ruin incarnate. So for me personally, I don't really enjoy the destroy the world type villains. I don't enjoy the characters that are stripped down to being just destruction. And it's really interesting again because we've seen this already in this same arc. Like, and I think really you see the distinctions when you look at Dobby and you look at Toga. Toga's fight shows how difficult this is in general when you're trying to like de-escalate someone. Dobby, however, during his second phase, he just turned into a giant firebomb that had to be frozen. And that's pretty much it. Like, Dobby was gone for many portions of that fight. He was just fire incarnate. So, you know, that's one of those. It's one of those really interesting little distinctions here. The benefits that you get from just stripping down a villain and turning them more into a massive destruction is that it's a little bit easier to deal with them. Again, Shigaraki gets his nuances because of his background. And going to the background, let's go back to a few pages here. Right, this panel. If I recall correctly, the wording. This panel, when Shigaraki was making this face, he was talking about he wants to destroy everything that has to do with that house, referring to his childhood. So, like, the author does something really interesting here, because Izuku's saying that, no, there is still a person here. And, like, what you can see here, especially because of Ochako's significance, is that Izuku is saying, like, no, you are destroying things because you're not a storm. It's because you're really upset about a really human reason. That's pretty much what Izuku is seeing, and if he can touch the person inside, he'll be able to see, like, you're not Ruin Incarnate. It's actually really interesting because Izuku is in direct opposition to En over here. Everyone here is saying that Shigaraki is just destruction, and Izuku's the one coming in here and saying, like, no, bro, you a person. You're upset about something, and I'm going to find out. And it comes back to the whole thing about, well, you were crying on the inside, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. It's actually really interesting what you end up having when it comes to the narratives going on in here. You have the Ruin Incarnate side, and you have Izuku's You're a Person happening. So it'll be really interesting to see how this works out and how exactly we're going to cheese the victory off of Shigaraki here, because, like, really, there is no way to beat Shigaraki if he actually gets serious about just destroying Japan. Like, what can Izuku do? But I really do want to reiterate, like, don't be mistaken. Izuku and En and the people who are, like, attributing Shigaraki into being, you know, massive destruction, like, these are competing narratives. Like, Izuku is, like, standing against that general perception. One other thing. Now, we have En freaking out here, which, very reasonable. You gotta remember, these guys are all losers who survived by running away. Nothing wrong with that, because sometimes you gotta retreat to be able to build up your strength. But you gotta remember that they're all fundamentally losers with hearts of gold. What I found really interesting here, though, is that when you have the whole thing about we'll all be stolen, that's the end of that, you have Yoichi looking at his hand. And, you know, like, the hand is very significant. The hand that reaches out to save young Eri, right? A kind hand. The hand that reaches out to Kudo when they're running away from All for One. The hand that reaches out to a child like Shigaraki. The hand that gets left behind and, like, All for One preserves it for the rest of his days. You know, there's a lot. It's really interesting that we're looking at Yoichi looking at his hand, because, like, because of how much hands do in Hero Academia, you have a lot of really nice. You have a really good branching point here, where if Yoichi goes into Shigaraki's body, you can have a moment where Yoichi is extending his hand to his brother, or he's extending his hand to mini Shigaraki in a play to try and, like, calm this shit down. Honestly, right now, like, that hand is like the hand of hope because it's attached to Yoichi and because Yoichi believes in the good and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, the person who has a significance there, like, does limit what it could be. But that hand being there, that is definitely a man thinking about, yo, how can I help people? I don't think that's a man thinking about, yo, I have to give this power away to someone else. There's other little parts in this page that were really good. We have a direct confirmation that there are quirk factors and there is one for all, and that the strength component is in one for all. So they can be stolen. Their strength is already recorded for all of posterity. This just pretty much sets up a situation where Izuku could be left without the vestiges and just have the super strength, so he's not absolutely broken in the Hero Academia universe. No, really clean, really a neat and tidy. One of my thoughts for the end of Hero Academia is that Izuku's just left with the super strength, or all quirks get eliminated. So I think this is alright. I do like, again, confirmation that Shigaraki can see the all for one, or sorry, one for all phantoms outside when they're talking to Izuku and all that kind of stuff. And overall, Izuku trying to survive against Shigaraki during this fight, I think, is relatively solid. It's going to be really interesting. If you were to ask me what is the most interesting thing to me right now, honestly, it's the Sero situation, and technically the Eri situation. I'm just very curious about how exactly we're going to bring those elements in. Oh, and Aizawa. Like, that's just like, I'm looking at this and I'm just thinking, like, bro, this is really drawn out. Like, I can't imagine writing this in novel form, because this doesn't work in novel form. It only really works in manga and anime, where like the audience is generally more willing to accept these kind of drawn out situations. But yeah, no, man. I'm just so interested to see how this is gonna work out. I did this little bingo card. I haven't filled in all the spots because I'm not really sure yet of little things I think could happen in, I should put it, My Hero Academia 2024. Just like my predictions for 2024 here. So ending at chapter 430 plus or minus 5. I think that's relatively safe. So I'll just list them off for you guys. Sero has a big enough moment. This is a safe one because we know that the author said that he has a big moment. Toga lives. I know that this was a point of debate last year, whether or not she lives. I think she lives because then she can help Shigaraki or something like that. Class 2A helps Aizawa. The only reason I'm putting them in here is because Class 2A has been... they're going to have another appearance according to one of the volume extras. Hori's old main character's cameo. I'm saying this one because I remember seeing documents that kind of gave early spoilers about Ochako's big moment when she had the megaphone. The Barrage, I think the Barrage character was there saying that they're going to try their best too. So I think they're going to get cameos still. All for One interferes with Shigaraki's control again. I talked about that. Something butterfly effect. This is referring to the whole situation with the weather reporter. Technically, we already had the butterfly effect have a moment in the manga with Bakugo's return, but I think you could probably still force it. Izuku tricks Shigaraki by not triggering danger sense. I think that's solid. Eri rewinds heroes. Eri needs to contribute. I think she is the moment of hope, or she is the hope that Hawks refers to when he says hope is not lost yet. Vestige, Nana, and Shigaraki meet. I think it'd be ridiculous if they don't. I think this is a good, solid moment here. International heroes show up to be backup. What are they going to be backing up? I don't know. Maybe preventing destruction of Mount Fuji, or maybe preventing Shigaraki Hand Monster. Shirakumo makes a return and has a friendship moment with Aizawa. I think this is another really solid one. There's another secret to One for All or Izuku. I think I borrowed this one off of Kayla, one of the commenters. I feel like we still haven't seen the stockpile person. We don't know where that stockpile vestige is. Okay, All for One is not Izuku's... essentially not Izuku's father. I'm making a hard bet here. This is one of my more radical bets. Yoichi and the Ghost rescue All for One, and it's pretty much as I explained in the video. All Might lives. I never thought I'd really be in this situation, but like I don't really see how All Might dies in a battle now. What's gonna kill him? Shigaraki's over at Mount Fuji. Like, what are we doing? Heroes come to save Mount Fuji. This is just like the domestic heroes. Shigaraki Hand Monster returns, and I must have been going for like, I must have been making bets on both sides. We never see Stockpile's vestige, which realistically, yeah, we might never see Stockpile's vestige. I don't, you know what, the unfortunate thing, and now that I'm looking at it, there's no way for me to get the G column correct, because the another secret to One for All or Izuku is like, would be the stockpile vestige. Alright, whatever. That's what I'm thinking for now for 2024, my little predictions. We'll have to see what kind of happens though. Guys, that's it for me. I have nothing more to add, other than Shigaraki's banter game on this one was very good. So props on that, Shigaraki. Like that was really cool. But yeah, guys, that's it. Let me know what you thought down below. If you have hopes about 2024, let me know that too. But until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day. Stay safe.